is Rachel and welcome to my channel. So I haven't been posting for the past couple of days because past week or 2 weeks because I've been on vacation, but I decided to just go with a simple little tutorial video today. So there was a challenge on this app, like a Compete app or something. I went on there just because they give away I think it's a monitor, or no, it's a computer every month, and I just wanted to win that, but so the challenge, there was a challenge on there that was an art challenge to draw gamer art, and I don't really have any interesting games that I play, so I went with this one because I like the concept of this. So it's a girl and she's playing her video game, obviously, with her character in the background. And this is a character that I designed myself. So here we have my sketching video. So it's not really too impressive at the moment because I wasn't really feeling, I was in like a little art block situation. So yeah, this is the second layer that I'm working on now, which is a thinner, smaller pen that I use over the lighter, thicker pen. So I just use the thicker pen to sketch out the shapes and place everything where it's going to go, and then use the thinner one to do the details. Now, I wasn't really sure what I wanted her face to look like, but I wanted it to be like happy but competitive. So to do that, you just make the eyebrows look like they're frowning, and you turn her mouth up into a smile. But you don't open the mouth, because if you did that, it would look a little bit too animated for what I was going for. So continuing, I wasn't really sure what to put on the desk, so I just put a few random shapes of what I have on my desk just to like fill things out. I was sure that I wanted stuff on there, but I wasn't sure if that was actually it. So I decided to turn the video game character here because I thought it would give it a little bit more dimension. I love drawing armor on characters, and the visor was for like a futuristic-y vibe, like kind of like how there's both armor and samurai or whatever in Overwatch. Hello. And then I gave her elf ears because I thought that would lend itself to the fantasy vibe. Anyway, so moving on. For the video game character, I wanted to make her look a little bit more realistic, so I made her eyes smaller. I made her nose a little bit more shaped, whereas, with the other girl, I made her nose very small and like a little line, just so that there's a slight difference. Now, it's going to be very similar still because it's all going to be in my style, because that's just the way that I draw, but I wanted her to look a little bit more realistic because a lot of times in video games they are generally realistic looking because they want to make it feel like, it's kind of like a other reality. But so her hair was in a little ponytail because I couldn't really think of any other classic video game hairstyle. I wanted her to be like pushed out of the girl, like wiggly at the bottom, so it would look like she's like floating there. So, but I wasn't sure how I was gonna do that. So I saw this hack online and I decided to try it out, where you color in where you want to shade with gray, and then you go over it with your colors and fill things out. So I was actually pretty happy with this hack, but it wasn't really for me, but it did give a nice effect, and it helped me plot out my shadows and stuff. So I was most excited about working on the character, so that's what I did first. I didn't really sketch out her armor as detailed as I would have liked it to be, but I'm the sort of person who ends up, you know, adding more detail when I finish the project. Because if I add the detail right away, then I'm not really interested in finishing the project. So I decided to make her skin color blue because she's like an alien or whatever, so she's not going to be the normal color, and I wanted to give it as much contrast as possible to our little main character girl, whatever, over there. And orange hair because blue is the opposite of orange, so I wanted her color palette to be gray, blue, and orange, with the gray being, you know, like more of a warm gray. As you can see, I skipped ahead here. But as we go on, I do find some, I'm still blocking in colors here, so this is the colors of the girl. But as I move on, I find difficulty with going back and forth between the shadow layer that I already did and the layers over top of that. Because I did put these layers on multiply, which means that the shadows of the other layers will show. So you have to erase underneath what shadows you don't want to be there. And I mean, it made the face look really, really nice and detailed, but it wasn't good enough that I do it again. So I wanted to erase it, actually, erase the entire thing, but you know. So I've always wanted a pink setup for my desk. So that's why I made her little keyboard pink. It's not because she's a girl, it's just because it's my dream setup. I see all these cute little video game setups that have like cotton candy themes and all that, and I think it's so cute. Anyway, moving on. So now I'm trying to add some highlights and shadows and figure out how she's actually going to be positioned here, because as you can see, it's a little bit awkwardly proportioned, but we'll continue with that later. So with the dark, I like to define things a little bit more and add in the details. And then with the light, I like to come back in where I've added those details and just highlight spaces that I've already added. So that way, you know, it makes it easier to just do everything in one go. So her lips, I wanted to be bigger, but I stylized them a bit more than I would have liked to, but I was happy with the result at the time, so that's what I ended up with. And I had some trouble with being symmetrical, as I usually do, and I'm never clean with these lines because I like to think of it as painting, so I try to clean them up a little bit, but you know. See, this is where I have trouble. I don't see where the shadows on the shadow layer are versus the shadows on the top layer, because the shadows on the shadow layer didn't give enough depth for me, so it's not worth it in my opinion. So I end up here getting frustrated with it because of the problems that it creates, but it's not that big of a deal. I just want to do it again. But I did have some trouble with the proportions of her face because I never do realistic drawings, and of course it's not really realistic, but it's semi-realism, so I have no idea what I'm working on now. Oh, yes, the highlighting. Highlighting skin is very, very difficult because for this one in particular, is very difficult. It was very difficult because I had no particular light source that I wanted her to have, because I didn't want her to have the same light source as the girl in front, because I wanted to make that contrast again, as I said earlier. So, and you'll see I jump back and forth between shadows and highlights to make that definition in her face. And I turned off the lines because I did want it to end up being lineless in the end. So here you'll see her eyes are little lifeless holes, but we'll fix that later. So I saw another artist recently drawing a face, and this person really helped me with the structure of the face because they colored the jaw in a specific way where the side of the cheeks had just an angle shadow downward. As you can see on the face, there's a simple angle, so it's not really as difficult as I had made it previously. So there would be just triangles on the cheeks that you would blend out, and a simple triangle on the bottom of the cheeks that you would blend out for the shadows. So the cheeks toward the nose, where you would put concealer or something, that would be where you put the highlights. And it made it a lot easier to do this one because, and this is a hack that I saw as well, where you use gray and then add in the color for your eyebrows within the hair. And I got this, I think, actually from an eyebrow tattoo video, which was interesting to say the least. But I'm not sure I pulled it off here. I think I should have added more values to the eyebrows. And so we're going in with the hair. I had put the hair on a multiplier layer as well as the skin, but I decided that it would just be better if it was a solid hair color because I didn't do as much shading on the hair as I did on the skin, so it wouldn't matter as much if I just negated all the work that I've already done. So right now I'm using four colors, a dark brown, a light orange, a darker orange, and a light brown. And I'll use a lighter orange, I think, later, but maybe not. There is a medium orange in there, but that was the base tone. We're not going to continue with that. So mostly I used the light orange to color. I used the light brown to color and shade, and then I used the dark brown to outline everything. Now I'm working on the horns. I love working with warm grays because they're just so easy to make look good. The hair is a little bit, blocky, but all of my work, all of it, is just shapes and making implications. That is the most important thing in art, to make the implication that something is there. You don't have to draw every detail if they know what's going on. Now, obviously, you want to make sure that it looks realistic if you're going for realism, but it doesn't have to be you don't have to draw every groove and rivet or whatever in the horns, or you don't have to draw every single piece of hair, because there are shapes and patterns that people see and pick up on. So here I'm doing the armor, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with the armor, but I knew I wanted it to be symmetrical, and I added a color that I didn't really do much with. I don't do anything with these jewelry pieces. I like them the way they are. I know some people don't, but I like them flat because there's so much detail in the face and in the horns and the hair for me that the adding shading on the jewelry would be a little bit much, especially because with the jewelry pieces that are near the hair, it would create more contrast to leave it alone. So I added gold accents to the armor because, fantasy armor always has gold accents. And I'm working on the highlighting. Now, armor is like anything shiny. What you have to do is do more contrast. So most of it would be, because this is dark armor, so most of it would be dark with only small patches of lighter gray and even tinier patches of white to make that shine. And of course you want to blend that out so it's nice, but you should have, as you can see on that right breast, well, our right if you're looking at it, not hers, you can see that there is a sharp cutoff there between the shadow and the highlight. So I did get frustrated here because of the armor. It's not the easiest thing to draw, especially in realistic forms, because in, you know, stylized forms you can do a lot more different things with it. And I was trying to do the wiggly effect here, but it wasn't working, so I just decided to erase all of that, make everything straight, and then figure out the wiggly thing with different effects later. And I wasn't as happy with the like six-packy area the second time around as I was with the first time around, but I still think it came out alright. And if you want to do like a lighter armor, I would suggest having most of it be light gray with a sharp contrast to the shadows in like smaller areas, but don't have the shadows be as dark, and have smaller patches of white, and that would give the same kind of effect that we have here. So gold has a reddish brown tint as well as a greenish tint, and I tried to capture that here. I think it looks good, but you know, there's always stuff that you can work on. I'm gonna work on looking at patterns in metal, so that's not my strong suit. I usually just draw pretty girls, but you know, you have to branch out. But anyway, so here I am messing with the features, the twisty features, and it's not going too well. As you can see, I decide that I better work on the girl before I, you know, do that, so I quit it. But here I'm working on the visor, and I wanted it to be kind of glowy, but it wasn't working. I liked that effect, but I wanted it to be more glowy, but unfortunately they didn't have another effect that was like shiny, and I guess I should have added my own stuff. But I also didn't like how it didn't really match the armor, so I added a few orange lines that had like a similar effect to them, so that onto the armor, so that it would match the hair and match the visor. You want a cohesive piece, so you don't want to have just one color up top. You want to have it throughout the piece. And I was working with effects here. I ended up deciding that it would be fine if it was the normal color, I think, because it still looked good. It still looked kind of glowy, but it wasn't as glowy as the visor, so the visor still had a lot of attention to it. Now I'm working on her face, the girl's face, and I do the same angular shading that I did with the previous face, and I was happy with this, but it wasn't my best face, I do have to be honest. It wasn't as my style as I would have liked. I'm not used to doing characters straight head on. I'm used to doing them like 3/4 view, so I wasn't really sure how to do that, and I think it showed here. As well as shading skin on digital is very, very difficult. I'm actually, surprisingly, a traditional artist, so a lot of my paint colors are really easy to mix, but with the digital slider, you don't really have the option of mixing. I mean, you do have the RGB sliders, but that doesn't really give the same effect as mixing, so it's more difficult for me. I think well, as always, shadows should be more blue or purple. They should just be more cool toned, and I don't think that I did it. I executed it well, but I was happy with it in the end. So here I had to change a bit of her proportions. As you can see, I'm doing the cool tone thing now, but I had to change a bit of her proportions because her arms felt like really short. I don't know why they felt so short, but I'm not sure if they were short now that I look at it, but I think they were. I don't know, but I need to go back and work on my anatomy because it is not good. Yes, so I was trying to do foreshortening here. That's what it was. And it wasn't working out too well. So I had to lengthen her arm to get rid of the foreshortening, the bad foreshortening effect, because it kind of just looks like she has a really short upper arm. So I realized that in shading these here, that it just didn't look right. Once you go back, you really see all the mistakes that you made. And I could have just, redrawn it, but no, I had to be difficult and move everything. And then when I made this arm longer, the other arm looks super duper short. So I should have just redrawn everything, but some mistakes are made. Anyway, so I didn't really actually have a problem with that arm now looking at it. It was the other arm that was really difficult, but because I moved everything, because I moved all of the fingers, the hand, the arm, whatever, outward, and I made it wider, it kind of ruined everything else in my sketch, so I had to fix that too. And don't worry that her hands look like spiders. I'll try and fix that later. It won't work out too well, but I have a problem in drawing. This took about like 3 or 4 days to make, and I have a problem that is I cannot for the life of me complete a drawing with the same passion as I do in the start, to have that same passion in the end. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just I get bored easily. Maybe I have ADHD, who knows. But that's definitely a big problem for me. There is no way that I can be happy with a project unless it's perfect, but there's also no way that I can finish a project and not be lazy. So, right here it looks so weird specifically because her chest is so far up, and I was doing a leaning over thing. Now I gave her big boobs to fix that problem, but it didn't work. So the reason, well, I lengthened her arms as well. Now she looks like a monkey. Is that how it ends? Oh well. But anyway, so the shirt problem is that the chest goes up too high, so the arms look like they're sitting up too high, so the area between the chest and the arms, that line there, is going up too far. So I'll end up fixing that later. So all I need to do is lengthen the sleeves, cut off that line, and extend the chest downward so it looks less, it looks less like she's hunching over or poorly drawn. So now I'm just gonna explain the background of what I did, because it turns out I didn't actually end up recording it. But I couldn't record it again because I had already drawn it, so I'm really sorry about that. But basically the background is very simple, just boxes and a darker color for the background. I'm not really good with backgrounds, not gonna lie, so I did do some lighting effects with the desk, but that is just lightening all the colors in a triangular shape on from where the monitor would be, and then darkening the colors on the sides. Now for the background itself, I added in this cute little cosplay wig because I love the gamers who cosplay. They're just like so talented and hardworking. It's amazing to watch. And basically, all I did for everything in anything that you see is I put down a base color that's a medium color. I add in the shadows to outline everything. I lighten the highlight areas, and then if there are shadows, I darken that with a larger brush on a lower opacity. Or I just color it in like with a tiny brush because I'm stupid and I don't realize that you're not supposed to make life hard for yourself. So there's that. But I end up being quite happy with her. I wanted her to be a little bit more like not dressed up and casual, so because it really represents us when you know we're not when we're actually gaming, when we're not being somebody else. But I added the cosplay wig in the background because it's something that she likes to do. And here you can see that the lighting that I did, I added a light opacity layer over top of the whole thing that was basically like a bluish color because my screen always gives off a blue color. I don't know if anybody else's does that. But I was kind of lazy with the keyboard as well. But again, as I said, everything that I'm doing, everything that I try to render is never a fully realistic rendering. It's just so that people can get the idea. And as you can see, I'm getting lazy because I'm getting frustrated with everything. So I recorded me rage quitting on my keyboard, but I didn't record the background. Nice going. Anyway, her eyes, I did the same as the other girl's eyes. Nothing too different there. They're just bigger and more stylized. Her hands, I don't know which keys are which, so I just put them in the general WASD area on the keyboard. And you can tell I was really lazy because, see, in the background there's only boxes instead of like the full-on drawers and other stuff that I wanted to put in there. And the cup and the keyboard and everything are all pink when I actually meant to change those colors. I did want a pink setup, but I wanted it to be a little bit more, pink and blue or pink and, green or something like that, and not just pink. And I also got rid of a bunch of other things that I did in the sketch. So here I'm just rendering out the chair. I think a gaming chair is very important because it's comfy. So I only did light shading on this. I didn't really try too hard because it is going to be in the background and it's not really going to be any necessary detail, so I didn't add them. I do have to say I really like the stylized background. I didn't blend out the lighter colors in the background because I did think that it gave it like a little geometric design, which contrasts nicely to everything that's rendered in the foreground. I did the wood grain by just on the desk by just going back and forth with a little brush and like a little woody pattern, which is squiggly lines and a circle. This is me drawing the wig. I wanted to give so much life to this, but I decided that simpler to the background, but I decided that not only because I'm lazy, but I decided that simple is better because I want to focus on the main things. Now, it's nice to have little details in the background, but I like the main focus to be on the little details in the people, like her horns or her how the colors of her armor match other things, and I like that to be the main focus. So I'm not really the type to hide a bunch of stuff in my paintings and whatnot. As you can tell, I'm not good at drawing hands either, which is why I hid the other girl's hands. Now, sometimes I'm wonderful at drawing hands. That day was not that day. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy, pal. I'm not that guy. Anyway, so it's a little bit messy, and I see so many creators that have such clean work, and it's so beautiful. But I like mine messy because it really gives it that like art feel. I don't know if that makes sense. But I don't know. That's pretty much it for today. If there's anything like specific that you would like me to talk about, I'm always here. So thank you for watching. Have a great day. This is the final piece. Bye.